Welcome to Inside Northern. I'm very pleased today to be joined with colleagues from our School of Business. Today I have with me Dr. Barclay from Management and International Business, Dr. Sara Schmidt, who's a proud accountant, and our Dean, Dr. Will Broucek, who has many areas of emphasis, but your area is also in management.
That's correct.
Absolutely. So we're really excited today to talk about what's happening in the School of Business, really update what's the exciting news and what are our students doing. When we were talking about this show earlier, one of the concepts that we came up with was we all know that students go and they have this educational experience in the classroom. That's the formal education. And then outside the classroom, they have opportunities. They have opportunities to learn by stopping by and talking to the faculty, talking to the dean, asking questions. They have opportunities with internships, summer employment, any type of experience that supplements what's happening in the formal classroom experience. And then the pride of all of our efforts, our collective efforts, is that we see students and they go out and they turn an internship into a job, which then maybe becomes a career. And maybe what we've done for them here is preparing them for future studies, whether it's here or somewhere else, but leading them to great careers. So the School of Business has always been a point of pride for Northern. I'm sure that will continue as a long-standing tradition, but today we can hear more about what's happening within the School of Business from our resident experts. So I'm really pleased to have you here today. So I guess first question I would have is, the School of Business has been busy. Here we are. It's the middle of October. We're kind of in mid-season of a semester. If you can just tell us about what's happening in the School of Business. I'm not sure who wants to lead off today in terms of future plans, recent activities. What's the pulse in the school?
Okay. Well, I'll lead off today. So, and sort of keeping up with this theme of being involved with students and extracurricular activities and so on, we've extended that to high school students. For the last 5 years now, we've held what we call the High School Business Symposium. And what we do is we invite students from various local high schools to come and attend. This year we had about 275 students or so from various high schools. And we do a day-long seminar. The theme of this year was branding yourself. The notion of everybody is involved with social media now. And so the things that you post on I was going to say Facebook, but the kids don't use Facebook anymore. It's the old folks who use Facebook. I don't know what they use, but it's not Snapchat. But these Instagram and these things, pictures and messages and tweets and things that you put on are things that employers look at. And we had a few cautionary tales for high school students about being judicious about how you portray yourself out in public. And we had some of our faculty and students put on some demonstrations. We had a panel of business experts from the community, and it was a well-rounded day. The students really seemed to appreciate it. So that was one thing that we did just last week, the High School Business Symposium. And as we did it, I was thinking, this is a real service to those kids, because they're hearing something that they need to hear, and they probably would never hear it in their classrooms. And it's really good when they can see students who are almost their age peers, and they can hear it from students. So it was a good day all around. For our students last week, we had two different employers come in. One was the accountants roundtable.
Okay.
They conduct all the CPAs from various firms and organizations. They all conduct kind of a speed dating activity where they'll sit at various tables. They will talk about careers in their firm or their industry, and then the students get that information, and they change tables and they hear from another CPA, and so on and so forth. So we've been doing that for years, and it's a really good experience for our accounting students. Then the day after that, we had representatives from Daktronics come and speak about internship opportunities. And these are two students that graduated from Northern, but they got internships at Daktronics, and they now both have full-time jobs at Daktronics, and they really love what they do. We've had a long history with Daktronics in terms of internships. They're 9-month paid internships, and there's a lot of autonomy that the kids have. A student will be told, all right, load up this van and with all this equipment and drive down to Las Vegas or drive down to South Carolina and represent the firm and set this all up. So they have an awful lot of autonomy, and it's a great way for them to demonstrate, showcase their skills, and then they land full-time jobs. So we've got a number of kids who are now with Daktronics through the internships that they got from them.
We actually had, oh, can I jump in,
Sure.
Bill? We actually, at the Daktronics, we had 2 years ago, our student, Chance Scott, he actually hit about 14 states on his internship, going from stadium to stadium. He got the opportunity to see the Jacksonville Stadium. If you don't know about the Daktronics scoreboard at Jacksonville, it's over 100 yards long. It's bigger than the football field. It's the whole side of the stadium.
Wow.
And he got to see that. And then the year after that, Ben Jastrom, another one of our students, he was a double major, sports marketing and management and marketing in the School of Business. He did the internship, and now he works full-time down there. So these internships do lead to some pretty important jobs they're pretty excited about.
And I know last week as well, Sarah took a group of accounting students up to Fargo.
Yeah, we did. So the accounting club students, it took 11 students. We piled into 2 vans, and the purpose of that trip was, again, to visit employers, for the students to see, you know, what types of skills they need when they graduate, what they can, you know, hearing from employers what they should be doing now when they're in college to prepare them for their job/career after college. So we visited the Eide Bailey office in Fargo, which we have an Eide Bailey office here, but the kind of sector of Eide Bailey that we visited was their forensic accounting, something that they don't have in the Aberdeen office. It's something different that they, you know, probably are just being newly exposed to, of what they could do with an accounting degree. And then what should they be doing now if that's something that they're interested in? What other things they could do now to kind of prepare them for a career like that? And then we visited, it's called TMI Hospitality, and it's a company. They own 185 hotels. They have a construction company that they also build hotels, and then once they're finished, they manage, do all the accounting work. We visited with 8, I think there was 8, the CFO, and then 8 individuals who were actually probably 1 or 2 years out of college. So then they also talked about, you know, what their position is. You know, they talked to students, were asking them, what should I be doing now? What sorts of skills are you looking for? You know, analytical skills, and, you know, Excel, being familiar with Excel. And so it was interesting, because then on the trip home, the students were like, well, what can I do to improve this? Or how can I, you know,
Right.
So it was interesting to kind of hear the students, you know, on the way home then talk about, oh, I want to get involved with this, or I want to do that, you know. So it was kind of, it's a fun to hear the students then talk about, you know, what they plan to do when they get back to campus and how they can better prepare themselves for those jobs after they graduate. So
Well, that's outstanding, because when we look at students, they're developing. It's a process. So getting them to understand that they are a brand, getting them to understand that everything they do contributes to their portfolio of knowledge, their skills, their public and social demeanor. All these things are part of the package that we prepare them when they go and do the interviewing. They come out and the interviewers say, do you have more? And that's our sign of, we did a good job. The students paid attention, they worked hard, and as a team, we prepare them to launch, is what I always call it. So, and what I always find is that students, they don't know what jobs and careers are out there. They know that they want to be an accountant, but in what sector of industries? Is it an oil and gas industry? Is it agribusiness? Is it hospitality? Or do you want to be a certified public accountant? You know, what do you do with this? So really kind of opening their eyes to what's available as jobs, which could lead to very sophisticated careers, which can lead to great things in their lives. That's what our job is. So that's great to hear that you guys are exposing them to multiple venues and multiple industries, so they start to see what is going to be their niche for their career. and then they can start to build themselves up to have that success that we all hope for. So it's a great thing.
Well, you know, it's really nice to see like these two students, former students who are working now at Daktronics. It's just nice to see them now that they've matured. You know, we saw them a few years ago at the CPA showcase. One of the CPAs is a fellow that I remember as a freshman. I had him in an IDL class many, many years ago. But it's been nice to see his progression as time has gone on.
Yeah, that's the outcomes,
That's
and,
right.
and we get to see them, and hopefully they come back to campus and they talk to our students when they're maybe 5 years out, 7 years out, because they see a change in their career and they're starting to reap the rewards. But when they come back and they're still in that age group, they're really almost like prophets in the classroom for 5 to 10 minutes. And then it's much easier to help our students get prepared, and it validates everything that the faculty say, because we brought people in from industry, maybe our alums. So that's a great thing.
We had an alum the other day. This was remember when the CPA firm from Rapid City came out last year, the one that my brother works for? Well, he hired a consultant to work on his website, and this consultant came from Sioux Falls. And they're sitting in a meeting, and halfway through the meeting, the consultant looks at my brother and says, "You wouldn't happen to be related to Dr. Barclay, would you?" And my brother goes, "Depends. It's my brother." He goes, "Oh, he was my professor at Northern." And it was like, my brother just sat there staring at him like, what a small world. He's in Rapid City working at a CPA firm, hiring a consultant from Sioux Falls to build the website that graduated with a business degree from the School of Business at Northern State. And he just happened to, my brother sounds just like me, I guess.
Right.
And he's like, "You related to Dr. Barclay?"
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's something, I'm relatively new to South Dakota, but I've noticed that there's not many degrees of separation between
right.
people. Yes. 2 or 3 conversations away from knowing someone
very
that,
true.
that you're related to or live next door to or you've known for years, which makes it a great place to work and network. Well, let's switch gears. Sarah, you've been engaged in a project, and I would frame this as a project that calls upon your expertise as an accountant, but all the faculty do projects like this, and the project of interest is you work for the Secretary of State to help them do this project to look at the product of a quarterly report, and you lead the project, but I understand you also involve students as well.
That is correct. So the report is, we call it the South Dakota Quarterly Economic Indicators Report. So every quarter we work with the Secretary of State's office in Pierre with Chantel Krebs. And what we do is we pulled together data at the national level as well as the state level on all kinds of different economic indicators, everything from unemployment rate to the taxable sales in South Dakota to GDP to gasoline prices, and we gather all this information and then we put it into a report, and then we kind of do an analysis on the information to kind of see, okay, where is this going to go in the future? So if we look out to the next quarter or a year from now, what are we expecting like for taxable sales in South Dakota? One of the things that it's been interesting is you know, was it last year when there was a lot of cattle that died out in South,
2 years ago.
2 years ago in Rapid City.
Big snowstorm.
And so we were expecting, okay, so how long is that going to take before it's probably going to start to affect the spending of the residents of South Dakota? And so we were figuring probably in the next quarter, next 2 quarters. And it's actually, what we're finding is it's really 1 year lag time, we thought maybe it'd be quicker than that. And so just taking that information, so the students, we pulled together the data, we put it into a format, and there's a lot of going back with the Secretary of State. Some of it, you know, she would like to highlight certain things in South Dakota, so, you know, we may write it up and then she'll say, hey, can we add this graph or can we change this information? So it's a lot of going back with the Secretary of State. Then once the report is finished, then it gets published all over the state of South Dakota for people, businesses, and the residents of South Dakota to kind of go through and read, and there's a lot of information in the report.
It sounds excellent, and what a great simulation for students that are in accounting or finance or business projections, or to just look at this and say, so this is how I use the information from all the classes that I've had to really help understand how the economy is going to be impacted whether it's by a big snowstorm or a bumper crop,
Yep.
or whatever is the case, real factors that impact the South Dakota economy. And I'm sure that this really helps Secretary of State in terms of looking at projections and budgets, and then the Office of Budget to say, well, let's look at how much is going to be in the state coffers this year. This is real data, real-time information that students can learn from. So that's great that you can include the students.
Well, I think too, you hear all this information on the news of, oh, we expect GDP to do this or inflation's going to do this. But I don't think a lot of times the students take that information and they can say, oh, that's going to affect me this way. And so it kind of brings that awareness to them to understand, or even if they're going to go out and they're going to own a business someday, to understand how that affects their business. Maybe it's they sell equipment for farm equipment or whatever the case may be, to understand that if corn prices go down at some point, that's going to affect their sales, to understand maybe we need to tighten up our expenses, not be spending quite as much, or, so I think it just brings that kind of awareness of what's going on around them and how that's going to affect them as a person, their business, or even the state of South Dakota. So it's been an interesting project.
I've always looked at what you described as teaching them to be integrative thinkers, that they're not in a vacuum, and none of the content areas across their disciplines that they study in business are independent. They're all integrated. And to then put it into an economic model to see the economic impact, and it might be 6 months, it might be a year, it might be 18 months, that you're selling less tractors because the farmers had to tighten their belts, and they said, well, we're going to have this combine last another year. What does it cost me to have it last another year before I go out and buy another one? That's great thinking that they get to experience. So, well, thanks for doing that.
Oh, it's been a pleasure.
Sounds like a great project.
Yeah, it has
Absolutely.
been.
Well, and it's just one of many projects and activities that we engage students with. And Alan, you look at taking students on trips, and last summer you took students on a trip. Can you tell us, a little bit about the trip? What were the learning outcomes, maybe expected or accidental, and what we might expect in the future to expose our students to help them be those integrative thinkers?
Well, last year I was very lucky to take a group of students to Aberdeen, Scotland. The marketing sold itself, Aberdeen to Aberdeen. Go see another Aberdeen on this earth. We actually studied at Robert Gordon University, which is a partner school of ours. We actually have a student there right now studying abroad. But last summer we laid the brickwork for this relationship, and I took 16 students out, and we stayed in the dorms on campus. We studied in the classrooms, in their school of business. We had their faculty come in and assist me teaching the class. We did kind of a comparative marketing management course where the learning outcomes were for the students to understand how business overseas works and compare it with business here in the United States. What we found out is the students were more interested in comparing product to product. Like, Twinkies are big here, what do they eat over there? Tea cakes. So they wanted to take apart the marketing process of the tea cakes in Scotland compared to the marketing process of a Twinkie here, or shortbread cookies, or whatever it was. And they really dug into the local products, the local marketing of the products, and they just kind of ran with it. And they did a presentation to the faculty of the School of Business over there, comparing how Americans think of marketing a product and how the Scottish people think of marketing a product, and the differences and similarities of the product. On top of that, we actually toured the countryside, and we've toured a lot of castles, a couple of businesses. We got to take a boat ride on Loch Ness. We didn't see anything. We tried to find Nessie, but we didn't see anything. A lot of stuffed Nessies came back from the gift shop. But the students got to see a lot of a different culture and how people over there view Americans. And you watch the news and you hear about how we perceive Americans being treated, and then they go over there and they taste the reality that the people were so excited to talk to us. They were so excited to hear about what's South Dakota like, where are we from, why are we there? And the biggest benefit was it rains a lot over there, and for the 2 weeks we were there, it was sunny. So we actually took credit for bringing the sun. So everybody loved us. Wherever we went, they were like, can you guys stay? Right. So So the accidental learning was more or less the cultural aspects of what life in Aberdeen, Scotland is like compared to Aberdeen, South Dakota, and the kids seemed to love it. The one thing we never quite got was when you're walking down the sidewalk on the left side of the road and you cross the road, they turn, and pedestrians are worth points.
Right.
So you're not trained to think to look over that shoulder
Right.
when you cross the street. So that was a good lesson to learn. We lost nobody.
Right, they're in the left lane.
That's good.
And,
They're in the left
and-
lane.
and you're trying to cross, and their tires are close to your toes. Right.
The best part of the whole trip, I have to say, was a selfish portion of the trip. We took a tour to a castle in a small village just off right on the coast of Scotland, and we were touring this castle, and when we got done there was a 2-mile walk to where we were going to eat lunch, and the faculty member with us didn't want to walk the 2 miles, so he was going to drive, and he looked at me and he goes, "Do you want to ride? We'll let the students walk. They can walk, we'll drive." So we pointed down the hill for them to go to that restaurant. So they all took off walking to the restaurant, and he looked at me and I said, "You gonna let me drive?" I've never driven on that side. It was the wrong side of the car on the wrong side of the road, and it was a manual gear.
Oh.
So I had to shift and everything, and I hit nobody. I hit nothing.
Good.
So I was very proud of myself, but that was my favorite experience of the whole trip, was driving on the wrong side.
Right. So there was no international incidents because
No,
of you driving.
no,
That's
not
good.
not
That's
that
good.
not that we're aware of. But we did go to Edinburgh, and we did tour some museums. We went to some nice little businesses to see how they were run. We saw a lot of they have a lot of castles. Saw a lot of castles, and I think the students really enjoyed it. I know one of them had never been on a train. Some of them had never been on a plane. Many of them never seen the ocean. If you know anything about the ocean in Scotland, it's not Southern California ocean. It's really, really cold North Atlantic Ocean. And they still stripped down to their swimsuits and jumped in because they'd never seen the ocean before. They were in and out really quick.
It's a short swim. Absolutely.
It was. In
Yes.
fact, they pretty much were walking on water to get out of it, but they'd been there. They had done it, and I'm hoping we planted the seeds for more future travel.
Right. Well, when you look at students, their awareness, I mean, there's an area of study, global business, which is one of your areas, but we're always trying to get the students to understand the world economy is global. We're not in a vacuum anymore, whether we talk about South Dakota or the United States. There's all these boundaries that are being spanned. So having the students go and have an international experience is critical. Having international students come here to study is critical, so we can really broaden the horizons of our students so they can start to see it's a global society, it's a global economies, and that they need to figure out how they fit within those global economies and cultures. So it's just a great experience for them. I'm sure it's a life-changing experience, and we hope they go more, and we hope we have more students coming here as well.
Well, we had a farming student on the trip, and we would go through the countryside on the bus, and his eyes were just huge, glued to the window of the bus, looking at the farms, and he just kept asking me, "Can we stop the bus and just walk up to a farm?" He goes, "I want to talk to a farmer. I want to hear how they farm. What are they farming? How are they farming?" We never could get the bus driver to really just stop at a random farm, but
Right.
he was really interested, and he would just stare out there, and he'd look at their cows, and he'd name what kind of cows they were, and we'd all just
Right.
like, "We believe you," you know, and it was really interesting. But just to see that they farm over there too,
Oh,
and he didn't even know that. He probably knew that, but to see it in person was very interesting.
and how they run their farm and run their businesses may be different, and we can learn from each other, and that's kind of the point. That's great. Well, I'm glad to hear that went well, and that we can hopefully plan more of these trips in the future.
We're trying. We have one on the books right now, so next year Dr. Omer and myself would like to take a group of faculty-led students over to Germany.
Okay.
We're flying to Hamburg, tour some businesses there, train into Prague, tour some businesses there, and then train back down to Munich and finish it up down in the southern part of Germany and fly back. About 2 weeks long. It's going to study business practices again.
Okay.
Look at how Germany impacts the rest of the European Union and how that impacts the rest of the world. Germany is one of the largest economic powers of Europe.
Right.
So it'd be very interesting for our students to see how that plays out and how that affects markets around the world.
Absolutely.
So we got that one kind of on the books. We're starting the planning now. Hopefully we'll get a lot of interest in it. We can get some students over there. Dr. Omer worked over in Germany, and he's fluent in German. So we're really hoping he can go out there and practice some more teaching our kids to speak German.
That sounds great. Sounds like a great experience. Well, I hope that works out. So not everything happens in the classroom, and then we do a lot of events, and I guess one of them we might call a signature event is Business Week. Is that a fair way to frame that?
Business Week is a signature event in the School of Business. That's a fair way of putting it. And we have 2 business weeks. We have one in the fall semester, and we have one in the spring. In the spring, we will celebrate banking and financial services. We'll bring in a noted banker or economist who will talk about banking issues. And we also in the spring typically have a business etiquette dinner. Last year when we had our business etiquette dinner, we all ate with chopsticks, which was kind of prescient because we're going to be going to China in a few weeks, and we can talk about that later. But in the fall, what we do is we celebrate Global Entrepreneurship Week. And so I think this is the 3rd or the 4th year. Third year that we've done this. We set aside usually 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and we may have a luncheon speaker and so on. I'll let you guys talk about the luncheon speakers and that. But the highlight is a pitch competition, which we have in the evening. And we've already got posters out. We've invited students to submit a 2-minute long video of a pitch they would like to present. We will look at those pitches, and we then determine the people who will be the finalists. And then the finalists work with other faculty, not just within the School of Business, but within all the schools and the colleges here. So we have people from biology, people from music, people from education. They will work with the students and the students develop their pitches. The students give a pitch to 5 community, we call them sharks, and we sort of do a Shark Tank parody with the music and all that, and they come in and they pitch their idea to these sharks. The sharks ask them questions and so on. And then we have a People's Choice Award, people vote, and we also will announce the winner at a mocktail party, which we hold in a culminating event on that Thursday evening. And one of the reasons we do the mocktail party is it's a great way to get the students used to developing their networking skills. So we have everything but alcohol, but we do have food, we do have drinks, and the kids are there to meet with the sharks and meet with other people, other faculty as well, introduce themselves, sort of sell themselves. And maybe you might want to talk about some of the other activities that we do that week.
Well, usually on Tuesday night we'll have either a Tuesday luncheon or an evening reception. This year we have a student, Wyatt Workinen, who is presenting an entrepreneurship idea for his honors thesis. He'll be showing a film and having a panel discussion on Tuesday night, all wrapped around his ideas in entrepreneurship, which is kind of kicking it off. And it's kind of nice to have a student actually lead the evening. So you want to talk about working on life skills. Here you go. You have this night. Tuesday night's yours. Wednesday night, the pitch competition, we have 2 students emceeing it, 2 students from the business club. They actually do the hosting, the emceeing. We have business leaders who do the judging of the pitches. And then we have usually 5 to 8, depends on how many submissions we get each year. And they'll come out and they're on their own. They get faculty coaches like Dean Broucek said, but we only coach the students on what to do and how to say it and how to look and things like that. But they're on their own, and it's filmed, and they have to walk out there in front of an audience. The last 2 years, the audience has averaged around 70 people. So these students are looking at 4 local business leaders, successful business leaders, and 70 of their peers, and they have to do a pitch. And it's not a business plan, it's just a pitch of an idea. And as they pitch it, they're on their own out there selling their idea. And then they get asked questions from the sharks, the business leaders. We'll ask them questions about their product or service or idea. and it's just fun to watch. And you just sit at the team I always coach. I just sit in pins and needles, like, come on, you can do it. And then the students have the smartphone technology to vote, and they can pick a fan favorite, which 2 years ago my team won that. And then the judges will pick a winner, and there's a prize, a cash prize tied to that. The students will get a prize. And to carry it forward, last year's winners went on, 2 different winners. The fan choice winner went on to the NIBS, and you can explain more of what that is, the International Business School programs. And she pitched her idea via Skype to professors all over the world, and the winner went down to Sioux Falls to pitch her idea. So
The giant vision.
we keep pushing further. And then to top it off, we went to Omaha that spring to the Midwest Entrepreneurship Conference, and our student that won the fan favorite actually pitched there. And she didn't win, but she pitched to 5 Omaha business leaders. You know, so we're getting a bigger city, bigger business leaders, and there were 300 people in the audience there, and she was thrown in front with a microphone and had to pitch her idea. And we found out she won fan favorite there. So
Great experience.
we getting these winners
And
coming
she was
out.
only a sophomore.
That's
There's a
amazing.
lot of big things ahead for that girl.
So
Only a sophomore.
it's
Yeah, that's great. Well, you know, helping our young men and women challenge themselves, and then coaching them and refining their ideas. But if it's their idea and they're pitching the idea, which could lead to a business, or it's just taking them through the process of thinking about taking an idea that's a concept that then you operationalize it, then you put into a business plan. That's a great experience and a great framework for them to have a successful career, because someday they may decide to have their own business. And that's the process they'll have to take themselves through. They might call you back and say, here, I got this idea, what do you think, you know, help me refine it. Or they'll have met people along the way that can do that, but that's how you can build economies. People with an idea that leads to a business, that leads to a next employer that stimulates our economies. That's a
We've
great
had
thing.
2 students who won the Giant Vision Contest, which is a statewide contest sponsored by the governor for university students to present their entrepreneurial ideas.
Great.
And the student who first won the Giant Vision, his idea was to have a hydroponic garden where he could grow vegetables for restaurants, as well as they would use the droppings of fish, which would be in the hydroponic garden, and he would raise fish, which could also be then consumed in a restaurant. And he was so interested in that idea after he won the Giant Vision. After he graduated with his business degree, he came back to Northern to pursue a degree in biology. And it's really quite a story.
That's great. Thinking across different disciplines and really challenging themselves to come up with an idea.
But it's a
that's
great
viable.
idea. I mean, these hydroponic type operations.
Sounds like a sustainable project.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's neat. Well, another thing that is a point of pride is our International Business Conference. And maybe who would like to talk about the International Business Conference?
Well, we're all going. All
know.
4 of us, actually,
Yeah,
to
absolutely.
a degree. Sarah is going as not per se to the conference, but to represent Northern with our sister university in Jinan. So Sarah is leaving, I think, a week from Friday. Those of us at the conference, we leave a week from Sunday, the 30th, and we will travel to Jinan, and we will co-host our International Business Conference. This is the 23rd year that we're doing this. We've always held a conference in Rapid City, and this is the first year that we are holding it outside of South Dakota. A number of our colleagues from Jinan attended the conference last year, and afterwards they spoke with us and they said, do you think we could perhaps have the conference next year in Jinan? And we thought about it and we talked about it, and we decided yes, we would. So we're doing that. We received the agenda for the conference just the other day. I'd like to say it looks really good. It does look good, but we can't understand it because it's in Chinese. but as soon as we get it translated. But I believe that they've got a number of concurrent sessions, I think at least 3 concurrent sessions set up for a number of different conferences. We have a number of our faculty who are going to be presenting papers. Dr. Barclay and his daughter are going to be presenting a paper, in fact. And some of our partner institutions from Okanagan College in Canada, they're going to have representatives there. We're going to have at least 5 different countries represented here, and then most of the Southeast Asian participants are going to be coming to Jinan. We don't quite know who they are, but we're anticipating quite a good conference this year.
Right. Well, the poster that's between Dr. Barclay and Dr. Schmidt shows the members of the conference, I presume last year or very recently.
Years ago, we always would culminate at Rapid City at
Right.
Mount Rushmore, which
Right.
is a lovely setting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we'll have that setting at Jinan. I don't know if they've got a Mount Rushmore. I don't think so.
Well,
But whatever they have, it'll be great. So
yeah. No, it'll be a good international exchange
It
for
will.
us to go there. And Jinan University is a very large university, 25, 30,000 students. And the city itself in the province, I believe, they proclaim that it's not that big of an area. It only has 6.5 million
That's
people.
right. It's a
Small town.
small
Right.
little
It's a
village.
small town in
Yeah.
China.
So, you know, it's going to be a great experience for all of us, a cultural exchange, an educational exchange, and lead to future research and exchanges with faculty and students as well. So it's a great project for us to
It is.
continue.
It's going to be a great experience for us to be there. I'm told that the visas should be here perhaps tomorrow, so we'll keep our fingers crossed. But as you know, we have to get a visa when you go to China, and so our coordinator for the Center of Excellence in International Business has done a really nice job of gathering everybody's passports and sending them off and shepherding the whole process. So we're on board to have a great conference and a great trip. It's just really good to have partners like we do have in Jinan and in the Confucius.
Right.
It's really a great opportunity for students. I tell new students and current students, particularly in business, that if they can take a couple of semesters of Mandarin Chinese and can at least function so that they could take the subway in Beijing and not get lost, that's going to help their marketability. And I believe that. And I've in fact been taking some, they have a Mandarin Chinese course for the community. It's not for credit, but it's Tuesdays and Thursdays from 5:30 to 7. And I've really enjoyed it. I struggle with the language. I don't take to languages that easily, but it's actually in a lot of ways a lot easier language than I thought. The hard part are the 4 different tones. But I just learned yesterday in class that they don't have names for the various months. Basically, January is 1, and February is 2.
Okay.
And I like that system. It's a lot simpler. when
Makes
you think
sense.
of it. Yeah.
Well, change.
The first month, second month, third month, fourth month.
It's just good to expose our students to the world, because then when they do international business, they'll be prepared. Let me switch gears. When we talked at the beginning of the show, we talked a little bit, or I mentioned curriculum. That's obviously an important part of what we do. What happens in the classroom, how we structure degree programs, and how we kind of constantly modify degree programs, or maybe even talk about adding a new program or a dimension of a program that may be new to keep up with a sector of the economy that's either growing or new. So when I look at the curriculum, for example, you know, how do we keep up with accounting? I mean, if I look at accounting, you look at the accounting laws, and every year there's another set of accounting standards that comes out. How do you keep up with that? You know, it's got to be a daunting task.
It is a little bit. One of the things, I guess specifically in accounting, with my CPA license, I'm required to have so much continuing education just to keep my
Right.
license current. So I always try to pick things that are applicable to what I think our students need to know. For example, if there are new rules that are coming out or new standards or tax laws that are changing, you know, trying to keep up with that. I think too, one of the things is we talking to our employers and wanting to know what they're looking for in our graduates, whether it be accounting, management, marketing. We've undergone some, like with marketing and MIS, you know, the hot topic, and this is true for accounting too, because last spring I attended a conference, but big data, that's kind of the buzzwords right now, is big data.
Right.
Students have to be able to take a whole bunch of data, you know, get it into a format that you can easily understand, and then analyze that data to make business decisions. Well, we've kind of revamped our marketing and our MIS to incorporate some of that big data courses, analyzing data, that sort of thing, into our curriculum. One of the other things that we're currently working on, Christy Bachany and Alan have been working on and I think this came from also talking to employers, is a human resource minor. Okay. You know, that's something that I think all management, really any business major, I mean, human resource, making sure that we're applying to all the employee laws and that sort of thing, making sure we're, you know, following those, incorporating some of those courses into the curriculum. So you know, I think it's a combination of understanding what you know, out there, the changing work environment, what employers are working for. Not only that, you know, it's just making sure that it's current. You know, maybe marketing the way they were doing it 10 years ago, that's not really applicable anymore. Everything is social media. Well, we need to make sure that we're not teaching to 10 years ago the way we marketed. We need to make sure we're teaching to what's current. So as the changes, the world is changing, then we're having to look at the curriculum and saying, okay, how do we change our courses or the major itself? What do we need to do to make sure that the students understand what they need to know once they get out into the workforce?
When I was a faculty member, I used to call it, I was tweaking.
Yes.
So you're constantly tweaking, whether it's a course, a group of courses, a minor or a major, or if it's an overhaul, or are we going to add something new? When I look at this part of the state of South Dakota, Aberdeen we're fortunate because it's very much accounting focused, it's very finance and banking, there's agribusiness. Those are all natural fits. So we can prepare our students for jobs in those sectors of industry. But what else is out there? Or the idea of big data.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you deal with massive quantities of data, whether you're talking about back to your state report that you do for the Secretary of State, or is it looking at just a business sector and how are they going to prepare themselves to be successful in the future, looking at global economies? Really getting the students to think that way, and we have to challenge ourselves to try and stay ahead of the curve. So the curriculum really is never done. It's always going to be in some phase of refinement or tweaking. So are there other things in the curriculum that we're constantly doing or that we're thinking about doing right now?
Well, one of the things that we really pioneered here is we've set up advisory boards. And so we have an advisory board for our banking program. We have another one for our international business program. And then we have a third one which oversees all of our other business programs. And they tend to meet, well, they do meet twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall. In the spring meeting, they meet with students, and the students, without any of us present, and the students candidly discuss what's working, what's not working. Their thoughts are recorded but never attached to any individual. But then in the fall meeting, we have to respond to the student had a concern regarding such and such. We have to respond to that. We've either made changes or we didn't, but here's why we didn't. Here's why we do what we do. I can recall with the Committee for the International Business, one time someone said, well, why don't you have a course on international HRM? You've got a course on HRM, but why not international HRM? Because it is different. There are different laws, different policies. And we vetted that through our curriculum committee, which we do have our own in the School of Business Standing Curriculum Committee, and we vet our ideas. And so we added that to the curriculum. The human resource management, we talked to one of our advisory board members at the Department of Labor, And we sent him the proposal that we had for the human resource management, and he then vetted it with the local SHRM society here, Society of Human Resource Managers. And they said they really endorsed what we were planning on doing. They thought it was a great idea, and it would be good for the local business community. So we try not to make decisions based in the old days we'd say, well, I think if I do this, but we try and do it more systematically and try and make certain that we get input from all our different constituent groups before we actually do something. But it's a good process that we do, and as you say, it's constantly, it's always evolving and always trying to keep current and trying to be relevant to what the students and what the employers tell us they need.
Right.
A number of years, a couple years ago anyway, we had a really nice conversation where our advisory board members said, you know, when we hire somebody, they need to know accounting, or they, you know, those concepts in accounting. They need to know balance sheets, income statements, and so on. Or they need to know the 4 Ps in marketing, whatever. But they said when that person gets promoted, it's not those hard skill areas that they look at, the knowledge base. It's the soft skills. It's the ability to communicate, to work with other people, to be able to share a vision, and so on. That's what determines their promotability. And it caused us to look at some of the things we were doing, and that's one of the reasons we put in a business week. The business week is a way of promoting those soft skills with the students, of being able to communicate a vision of their own, being able to network with other people. It's a way, and that really came, I think, from that meeting.
Right. Well, I love the idea of human resource management. It's one of the areas I studied in college and graduate studies as well. But if you think about it, a student picks one of the areas of business as their primary area of study, but if they have aspirations to be a sector head, a director, or vice president, whatever level they aspire to, they're going to have to manage people. And they're going to have to manage projects, and they're going to have to know laws for human resources and compensation laws and all these things that you can take for granted until you end up with a problem, and then you think, oh, I should have taken a class in that. So that's a really good complementary piece that they can bring to the table to say that they're really ready not just for their entry-level job, but for jobs and experiences that may be available in the future as their careers progress. So things like that, and getting students to think that way is really critical, because not just they're learning today or tomorrow or getting their first or second degree, it's about lifelong learning. And the laws change, the rules change, processes change, new innovations come forward, and they have to always be thinking about, how do I stay ahead of it, or at least current with what needs to be done. So that's great to hear that that's all happening within the School of Business. Well, you know, when I also look at the School of Business, there's something that I'd just like to mention, which is a point of pride, the ACBSP accreditation. So I know that when you go through a process like that, it takes a lot of time. You apply to be a candidate, and then you're in candidacy, and you collect all this information to confirm that we meet the accreditation standards for ACBSP. I would just like to congratulate the School of Business for doing that. It affirms the quality of learning. It also allows our students to say, I graduated from an accredited School of Business, which is important. They don't realize how important it is at this point in their lives, but later in life, as they mature, they'll say, wow, that was important, because that affirms the quality of the School of Business, and it also affirms the quality of Northern State University. So thank you all. I know you all were very, very involved in that.
Well, thank you.
It's like a gauntlet or a marathon, or maybe both.
Or a marathon with a gauntlet at the end.
Yes, yes, but it's that affirmation, because there's people externally that come to campus. They look at all the materials and all the curriculum and the student experiences and the learning outcomes and say, yes, they've earned this right to have that seal of good approval, which is that accreditation, ACBSP. And ACBSP really resonates with who we are. We focus on instruction and student development, and the faculty are teacher scholars, so it really is the best fit, and it affirms that we are doing an outstanding job. So it was a point of pride when I first moved here and I heard that that was almost ready to be announced, and it's since been announced. So congratulations
Thank
for
you.
that.
We were
Thank
really
you.
pleased to do that. The thing that I like about ACBSP, what I really am impressed by, is this commitment to continuous improvement.
Right.
And that's really what we've done. We've made a commitment that we have not reached perfection, but we are going to continue to improve, to try and always become the best that we can be for our students. And it's what ACBSP is all about, is continuous improvement, keeping records, collecting data, making informed decisions based on the data, and making little experiments to try and get a little bit better, just tweaking, continuing to tweak and get better and better all the time. And it was an arduous process, but it was a pleasant process, an eye-opening process for us. We learned a lot about ourselves. And there are 3 evaluators who come, and the evaluators don't make the final decision. The evaluators gather all the evidence, they write up a report, and then there are adjudicators at the head office in Kansas City who look at the evidentiary file, and they say yay or nay, basically. And
Right.
so it was a number of people who looked at us, looked at our results, and they said, yes, this school is worthy of being a member of ACBSP and being accredited by them. So we're very proud of that achievement.
Well, it's a great affirmation. So today's show has been very informative. I've learned more. I'm still in the process of learning as much as I possibly can as a new guy on campus. Each time I talk to the faculty, the staff, the administration, it just gives me a greater sense of pride of who is Northern and what we do. We're doing a great job. So it's great to tell the community about our School of Business and to make people understand that we're continuously improving, because that's a model that our students need to adopt as well. They have to always challenge themselves to continuously learn and improve to be a professional that can compete. So is there any other things that you'd like to share today before we wrap it up?
I might share a couple of things that are happening in our marketing classes. We were talking before, Sarah, I think you were talking about being current and not being 10 years out of date. We don't teach advertising anymore. Our advertising class is now called Integrated Marketing Communications.
Okay.
Because it is integrated, it includes advertising, but there's a huge social media component to that area now. And so I was talking with Hannah Walters, one of our instructors in that area, and her students are doing a project where they are looking in particular at the social marketing of Northern State. And they're looking at various aspects of social marketing, and they present their findings every Friday at 11 o'clock. So I'm going to go to that this Friday, and you're invited if you want. I'll give you the room number and everything if you want to come and see that. Another one of our marketing instructors, Amber Mather, she teaches marketing research. And typically, people from the community will come to the person teaching marketing research and say, gee, I've got a question about this, or I'd like to know how I could get more customers in. And various businesses have worked with our faculty through the years. This year, she's working with one individual who is attempting to start their own business. And it's a business that involves coaching and athletic coaching, life skills coaching, anything to do with helping other people improve. And her students, she's divided them into 3 different groups, and one is working on a social marketing aspect, one is working on who are the market segments to appeal to, and so on. And so it's nice to see that our students get a chance to work in the classroom, but they work with real world issues, real world companies trying to use those market research services. So they're not just reading about it, they're doing it. They're actually conducting surveys and and analyzing the surveys and making decisions and so on. So those are two things going on in our marketing classes that are of interest.
That sounds excellent. Now I know we've talked about management and international business, accounting, now marketing. We're also doing exceptional things in banking and finance. So across all the sectors of the School of Business, there are great things happening. I would be interested in hearing or getting some summary report, and maybe even having the students come attend a meeting with the faculty. I don't think I'm available on Friday, but this is the kind of data that we need as a university to constantly figure out where we're positioned, how people perceive us, what is our brand, so then we can continuously improve that brand recognition and have more and more people have an even greater affinity and respect for Northern State University. So we can talk about that offline, but this is the type of data that we need as an institution to improve ourselves.
That's what they're working on.
In terms of enrollment management and marketing, because the more students we have, the better. And we're building up a university infrastructure to accommodate more students with new residence halls, and we're working towards other areas of development with facilities. This is what we need to do, and to get that data from them, I would very much enjoy to see that and hear about that. So hopefully we can do that in the near future. Well, we've had a robust conversation. Again, I'm proud of the School of Business. I think there's a lot of people in the town, in the region, and across the state of South Dakota that have gone through the School of Business, and it's a point of pride for them. The school continues to be a point of pride for Northern. So,
can I throw out one more point of pride before we end?
Sure.
Two of our students last year in the pitch competition actually made the idea come to life.
That's right.
Kenzie Thielen and Gabriella Limer pitched a recycling company. They want to start recycling, and they actually took their idea a step further, met with a couple of professors, including myself and Dr. Omer, and turned this into an actual business plan that they brought to the Aberdeen and the Brown County Fair. And they actually, it was in the paper, they actually did the sanitary cleanup and recycling for the Brown County Fair this year. So it wasn't just an idea they did here, it wasn't just a pitch they did, but here's two students going out on their own and creating their own company. They actually hired 18 of their peers.
Nice.
One's a softball player, one's a basketball player, so they hired 18 of their teammates, and they took care of all the cleaning duties of the fair this year, got paid for it and everything. So, you know, that's a point of pride. Our students out there taking these ideas and saying, you know what, this is not just a viable idea for a pitch, this is a viable idea for a paycheck. And they did it.
And that's what we want our students to do, is to think, how could they get involved and maybe engaged, and they become a waste management company and or a waste management and recycling company. Those are all viable industries, and they're also all about sustainability for our communities in our region. So that's a great example. That warms my heart to hear that story. So
it didn't warm theirs to do the work.
No, it's difficult.
Cleaning
work.
up a fair is not as glamorous as they imagine.
No, it isn't. It can be a bit messy, but
it's profitable.
But it's profitable, and I've heard in the community that they did a fine job. So that's really
love
good.
to hear when our students do a fine job.
So it's outreach to the community, and it provides immediate evidence that we're engaged with the community. Northern has a great relationship and support from Aberdeen and the region, so we're always thankful for that. So any way we can give back to the region is a good thing for us to do as well. So with that, I'd like to thank you, Dr. Broucek, Dean Broucek, for your contributions and your leadership. Dr. Schmidt, Dr. Barclay, thank you, and thanks to all your faculty and staff colleagues for what you do as a team to really build together the School of Business that continues to be a point of pride for Northern our region. So thank you, and with that, we'll say good day and go Wolves.
Yes.